Well, if you've worked with the Dimensional Insight Measure Factory technology before, you have an appreciation for just how powerful it is for solving complex problems. But as we push the limits, as we are in the applications group, we are finding that we do run up against some limits. And I want to talk about several of those relative to deployment scenarios. And we'll talk about each one of these in turn. So the first scenario is the most basic one, and that's a single application running in a single factory. Now, these single applications can still be plenty complex, but at least we're dealing with one thing, one set of data, rules, logic, and measures. So next thing we might want to do, and this is using the example of the healthcare applications product family, is to layer on additional applications on that initial application. So in the case of Surgery Advisor and Outcomes Advisor, they share data and logic with hospital operations and one another. So now we've got this challenge of ensuring consistency among and between these applications. So the next scenario is actually a best practice in terms of having cloned environments, if you will, for purposes of production, deployment, test certification, and development. So the challenge here becomes consistency across these environments and migrating code from one environment to the other and ensuring consistency in that process. So next, we ultimately reach a point where we may want to deploy multiple factories for a variety of reasons, including scalability and complexity. So here we have the scenario that I described earlier, plus a second factory, which may also have hospital operations or some subset of it that the revenue cycle advisor application depends on, and also maybe customer-specific custom applications that want to use data and logic from these applications. So now we've added on the challenge of maintaining consistency and integrity across multiple factories. All right, so we've got a fair number of challenges there. So you might ask, what is Dimensional Insight doing to help me with these? So a few things. In the near term, we have workbench version control, and as of 7.120, we've got some new features here that make it increasingly practical to deploy the Git-based conversion control, and we're beginning to use that in the applications team and look forward to introducing it into customer sites. We're also working on application standards and conventions to make it more practical to deploy multiple applications in a single factory as well as across multiple factories. We're also working on an integrity assurance tool that's based on the Dimensional Insight DiveTab functionality. And I want to take a look at that and give you an idea as to what it does. So this is DiveTab, and this application is integrating the metadata across 6 different healthcare applications. This metadata is generated automatically by the Measure Factory during each factory refresh. So what we're seeing here is 6 different healthcare applications and all of the metadata generated by those. So one of the things we might want to do is look at the integrity of measure definitions across all of those applications. So in DiveTab, I'm going to change my dimension to measure. And one thing I might be interested in doing is looking at the calculations and potential duplication of calculations across measures. So in the instance of the inpatient-outpatient charge ratio measure, I see that there are 3 instances of calculation. That's bad. We don't want that duplication, but I can see what they are. And they're variations on the same theme, mathematically similar, but they're different. So we ultimately want to synchronize them and make them consistent. And I can look at the different applications that these are deployed in. So that doesn't necessarily solve the problem, but it helps us identify it, which is a step in the right direction. So some other things that we'll be doing in the future, a single source of metadata information, so it doesn't need to be incorporated into each individual factory, and increasingly improved DivePort platform functionality to support multiple factories. And of course, as always, we're interested in your experiences using Measure Factory. In fact, we have a session in DIUC to share your ideas around Measure Factory with us live. So we look forward to talking to you then.